Hello learners, welcome to the next session on genetic algorithms. The previous session we saw introduction to genetic algorithms, we talked about its operators, right, and the steps involved in genetic algorithms. Today we'll look at an important concept that is schema theorem, which is a tool which is used to analyze a genetic algorithm process. So before starting with schema theorem, let us have a glance at genetic algorithms first, right? So what it has, the population of binary strings, we call them as chromosomes. The population evolves using kind of natural selection together with the genetics inspired operators, that is crossover, mutation, inversion, etc. Bits in a chromosome represent genes, and each gene is an instance of particular allele, that is 0 or 1. So in short, you can say chromosomes are nothing but they are the strings of bits, right? And bit is nothing but it is 0 or 1. The selection operator chooses those chromosomes in the population that will be allowed to reproduce. And on average, the fitter chromosomes produce more offsprings than the less fit ones. So it is nothing but the concept of Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest, right? So the chromosomes which are quite fit, are more fit than others, will be selected for the next generation offsprings. Okay. Crossover exchange parts of two chromosomes. So in case of crossover, what you do, you exchange the bits of two chromosomes, right? Mutation randomly changes the allele values of some locations in the chromosomes. In case of mutation, if it is the bit is 1, it becomes 0. If it is 0, it becomes 1. So it's a bitwise mutation, right? Now, what is the basic structure? How the process starts? So randomly you generate initial population of n strings that we call them as chromosomes or even individuals, right? Evaluate the fitness of each string in the population. So once you have a pool of strings, evaluate or compute the fitness of each string in the population and then follow these steps, right? So you need to follow these steps. So what you do then, select pair of parent chromosomes from the current population according to their fitness. That is, chromosomes with the higher fitness are selected more often, right? So from the pool of chromosomes, you select parent chromosomes which are more fitter, right? Then apply crossover with probability. Then apply mutation with probability of occurrence, right? And as a result of this, you get a new generation, you get a new offsprings ready, right? So what you do, once the new offsprings are ready, discard the older one and replace the current generation with this new offsprings. What are outcome of this crossover and mutation, right? Now the process is repeated. This process is repeated till the termination condition is met. A simple thing, right? In short, what you do, you have set of chromosomes, which is nothing but your population. You select the one which are fitter, use them to produce the new offsprings by applying crossover and mutation with the probability, fine? And the new generation is now becomes the next generation here, and the older generation is discarded, fine? The simple structure of a GA process. Now, let us look at the mathematics behind this genetic algorithms. That is nothing but the schema theorem, right? So schema theorem is derived from original work by Professor John Holland. Right? It is a process is to investigate mathematical foundation of genetic algorithms. It serves as an analysis tool for the GA process. It explains why GAs work by showing the expectation of schema survival. Why it works? Because this is a whole concept. What we're talking about schema theory is how the schema survive, right? It is applicable to canonical GA. So the canonical genetic algorithm refers to the GA proposed by John Holland in 1965. So what is that canonical GA? So it has a binary representation. Individuals are of fixed length, right? And it follows a fitness, that is proportional selection, like Rottweiler and all what we saw in the previous lecture. Rowlett-Weill selection, that is a proportional selection. Then your single point crossover. We have seen already there are many different crossover points, but canonical GA is based only on single point crossover, and it has a gene-wise mutation. Fine, it has a gene-wise mutation. Now, to discuss schema theory, let's look at the population of individuals created randomly and represented using binary codes. We call it as nothing but it's a binary representation. So these are the randomly generated 5 chromosomes, you can say. You can also call them individuals, or you can also call them strings, right? And this whole thing, these are the hidden chromosomes in between. You can see the hidden strings. The whole thing together, we call it as population, right? A population consists of number of randomly generated strings, right? So what is our next step is, next step is to find the similarity between these binary strings, right? To find the similarity of these binary strings, we need some particular template, right? So we have a schema template, right? We will be able to explain the schema theorem by using this schema template. So schema template specifies groups or sets of similar chromosomes. So schema is a set of binary strings that match the template for schema H. The concept of template is simple, like we have so many templates, ready-made templates, and you can just put the data there, right? So here we have the ready-made templates H1 and H2, and we are going to see how many of the strings from this population matches these two templates, right? So a template is made up of ones, zeros, and stars, right? You can see it's ones, zeros, and stars, right? So stars is where star is nothing but it is a don't care symbol that matches either 0 or 1. Even we can call it as wildcard character or wildcard symbol. For comparison, let's consider two schema templates, H1 and H2. So there are some fixed numbers and stars in the templates, right? There are fixed numbers and stars in the templates. Stars can take the value 0 or 1, right? As we said, it's a like wildcard symbol or wildcard character. H1 is one template or schema, and H2 is a second template or schema, right? So here we have only one star. In H2, we have only one star, and rest are all fixed bits. So the concept is what? Schema consists of combinations of stars and fixed bits, right? Now, fixed bits are these 1, 0, 1, 0. These 1 and 0s are the fixed bits, and stars are wildcard symbols. Or they can take the either value of 0 or 1. Fine? Next. Now, schema template. Now, this one H1 and H2 are schema templates. And now we want to see how many of these individual strings in this population pool belongs to this or follow these schemas, right? So how many individuals from the population of individuals are going to follow a particular template or schema? You can say anything, right? It's a schema template. So let's say H1, right? Here H1 says star, 1, 1, star, star, star. Now, if you see the population, the first string A follows H1. What H1 says star means it can be 0 or 1. So it has 1 here. Then it has 1, 1. So it has 1, 1 at this particular position. Then it has 3 stars. Stars can take either 1 or 0, right? So A follows the template H1. Now the string B, if you look at it, this also follows template H1. Why? Because C star, right? Now fixed bits are what? 1 and 1. So at the same position, you have fixed bits 1 and 1. Rest of the stars are represented by 0. So B also follows. But if you look at carefully, even C follows the template H1, even X follows the template H1, and even Y follows the template H1. So except the hidden strings, all the rest of the strings follow the template H1. Fine. Similarly, if you look at in H2, that is star 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, which is followed by, you can see C and X string, right? What C has is 0. Star is replaced by 0. Then you have 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, and 0, right? So C follows both template H1 as well as H2. Similarly, if you look at X, X is again star is replaced by 1 here. Then you have 1, 1. Fixed bits are same. See the equal number of fixed bits at the particular position. Position is also same, right? So C and X both follow the template H1 as well as H2. So all the strings visible here are going to follow template H1, and two strings C and X follow H2 also along with H1. Now, before we start with the analysis, we'll be carrying out the analysis with help of these two terms, that is order of schema and defining length of schema. Fine. Now, what is the order of schema? The order of schema is a number of fixed bits, that is the number of bits that are not star in the schema H. Right? It's very simple. Order of schema, that is OH, is nothing but the number of fixed bits. So these are the fixed bits. These are the fixed bits, right? There is number of bits that are not star in the schema. So if example, if you have a schema H, right? With this template 1, 0, star, 1, star. Then how many are fixed bits here? 1, 2, and 3. So 3 are fixed bits. So order of H is 3. Fine. Similarly, order of H1 will be what? How many fixed bits? 1 and 2. Rest are all stars, right? So order of H1 is 2. Similarly, order of H2 is what? You have 1 star, but rest are all fixed bits. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So order of H2 is 5. Why? It has 5 fixed bits and only 1 star. Right? It's very simple, right? Order schema is nothing but number of fixed bits in that particular schema. Next, what you have is defining length of schema. Remember again, we are not talking about only length of schema. Here we say defining length of schema, fine, which is represented using delta. So defining length of H is represented by delta H. Now what it is a defining length is a distance between its first and the last fixed bits positions in a string. Right? If you look at it, the defining length of H1, right? The defining length of H1, what it says, the fixed bits first and the last position. Now fixed bit starts at the position 2, like this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 positions, right? So fixed bit first position is 2 and the last fixed bit position is 3. So it is 3 minus 2, that is 1, right? So defining length of schema H1 is 1, represented using delta H1. Similarly, defining length of H2, right? Again, what will be counting? The fixed bits, right? First position and the last position. So here it is starting from the position 2, right? Then you have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? So it is 2 and 6. So it is 6 minus 2, that is 4. So it is depending on the positions of the bits, fixed bits in the schema. So order of defining length of H2 is 4. That is delta H2 is 4. Suppose if you have H template with this H schema with this template 1 and all followed by the stars, at that time what will happen? The starting as well as the ending, the last and the first fixed bits are same. Position is same, that is 1. So you'll have 1 minus 1, which is nothing but 0. So defining length of schema H will be 0. That is delta H is 0. So these are the two important terms what we'll be using throughout our lecture. Fine. Next, what we have is G operators, right? Now, the probability of selection in the mating pool of a particular GS string is proportional to the fitness. Fine. Even if you remember the roulette wheel selection procedure in the previous lecture, the one which is fitter would appear in front of that fixed point more. The probability of its appearance is more. That is selection of the more fitter string is higher. So higher the fitness, more will be the probability of selection. Now supposing that, let MHT, fine, MHT is going to represent number of strings belonging to schema H at teeth generation, right? Number of strings belonging to schema H at teeth generation, right? That means how many strings are going to follow schema H at teeth iteration, right? Now, our aim is to find out what is M, H comma T plus 1. Our aim is to find this, right? Our aim is to find M, H, T plus 1, right? What it says, how many strings are going to follow schema H at T plus 1th generation? At T plus 1th generation, right? Now, N is the population size. That is how many strings are there in the particular population, right? And now let's define FH. Let's define FH, right? Which is nothing but the fitness of schema H, right? It is an average, or it is average fitness of the strings represented by schema H at the teeth iteration. Now suppose that 5 strings are going to follow a particular template as we saw in the previous slide, right? Schema H, like schema H1 was followed by all the 5 strings of the population. So now we can find out the fitness value of all the 5 strings which are going to follow a particular schema. We add the fitness values and divide by 5 because we took the example of the previous slide, right? So that we'll get the average fitness of the strings which are going to follow the schema H. So summation of F is nothing but the total fitness. right? Summation of F is nothing but the total fitness, right? Let us look at it, a simple example just to show you all how we calculate the fitness. So fitness is nothing but your number of ones in the string. This is our previous example, right? Our population of strings. Now, fitness of string A. Fitness of string A is what? How many ones are there in A? You count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 ones. So fitness of string A is 5. Very simple. Now, similarly, fitness of string B is what? 1, 2, 3. Fitness is 3 because there are only 3 ones. Fitness of string C is 3, right? 1, 2, and 3. Similarly, fitness of string X is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Y is also 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Right? Then you calculate the average fitness. So average fitness is what? Nothing but the summation of all this fitness divided by number of individuals in the population, right? So here you have 5. So summation of this divided 5. So average fitness is 3.8, right? So the average fitness is in the proportional population of possible solutions increases with every generation. Fine. Now selection, right? So now let us find out what will happen to schema H at t plus 1 generation. What will happen to schema H t plus 1 generation if we know that MHT. So if I'm just calling this as MHT directly, huh? So if we know how many strings are going to follow a particular template H at tth iteration and what will happen to the schema H in the next iteration, then we can find out using this particular expression. Right? Now, MHT plus 1 is nothing but MHT plus 1 is nothing but MH comma T multiplied by N, which is number of strings in the population, multiplied by H multiplied by F H divided by summation of F, right? Divided by summation of F. Now, how to arrive at this expression? We are using the principle of proportionate selection, which is the probability proportional to the fitness. Now we have already calculated what is FH, right? We have already calculated what that is fitness of each schema in the population, right? Each string in the population. So we already calculated the fitness of the schema, that is FH, right? That is nothing but the schema of fitness, and also we know what is the total fitness, that is summation F. We know summation F as well as we know the fitness of schema H. Then what is the possibility according to the proportional selection that this particular schema H will be selected in the mating pool? That probability is nothing but FH divided by summation of F, right? So this is the probability that is the particular schema H will be selected through proportionate selection, right? Possibility of selection. Now, if this is the possibility value, then MH comma T plus 1 is nothing but MH comma T multiplied by N multiplied by the probability. This is nothing but the probability. This is what's the probability of selection of schema H. Fine. Now this is nothing but the probability. Using this, we can find out what will happen to schema H at t plus 1 iteration by considering the proportionate selection. Now let us see what happens if we use the other parameters of G. So now we can also write it as MH comma T plus 1 is equal to, right, MH comma T multiplied by FH divided by F bar. Because this average fitness F bar is nothing but the sum of the fitness value, right, divided by the population size. Sum of the fitness value divided by the population size. So we can get the F bar here. How we calculated this F bar. Fine. All the equations what I'm using here are taken from the lecture of Professor D.K. Pratihar sir from IIT Kharagpur. His lectures on evolutionary algorithms. Next, what we have is crossover. So let us consider a single point crossover. Now supposing that let PC, that is probability of crossover, right? And let L be the string length. Fine. A schema will be destroyed if the crossover site falls within the defining length. Now, again, we remember what is defining length. Defining length is nothing but the difference between the last and the first fixed bit positions in our schemas, in our strings, you can say. Now, if the crossable site falls within this defining length, there is a possibility that this particular template will be lost, right? And if you want to survive, then we'll have to take the precaution. Now, what is that probability that this particular schema whose defining length is nothing but delta H, that is defining length what selected inside that particular danger zone. So that particular probability is nothing but delta H divided by L minus 1. Delta H divided by L minus 1, right? Now, delta H is the defining length and string length is L. So then we have here L minus 1 for the selection of the site. So the probability that the crossover site will fall within the defined length is nothing but, you can say, delta H divided by L minus 1, right? Similarly, the probability of destruction is nothing but, again, this probability of destruction. Probability of destruction is nothing but delta H divided by L minus 1 multiplied by probability of crossover. That is PC, probability of crossover. Fine. Now, there are two probabilities, probability values. One is PC and another one is delta H, right? These are two probabilities. Now, this is one probability and this is another probability. This is the probability of selection of site for the crossover, and this is the probability of crossover. So there are two independent probabilities which are multiplied to get the probability of destructions. Right? Now, if this is the probability of destruction, then we can find out the probability of survival, right? Which is nothing but 1 minus probability of destruction. So now if we combine these things along with whatever we got through the reproduction, so now we can have combination of reproduction and crossover, right? So combining the effect of reproduction and crossover, we get this, right? So we get the updated rule. See here the sign is changed. Fine. Here we had equal to. Now the rule is changed. Now we are greater than equal to. So you have m h comma t plus 1 greater than equal to m h t multiplied by fs divided by f bar multiplied by 1 minus, that is probability of crossover PC multiplied by delta S divided by L minus 1. So these reproductions, and here we have combined the reproduction and the crossover, right? We have combined the reproduction and the crossover. Next, what we have is mutation, right? So now let us consider bitwise mutation. If we consider the bitwise mutation, and we can say that to protect the schema mutation should not occur at a fixed bits, because if the fixed bits are changed, the schema will change, right? So we want mutation should not occur on the fixed bits. It can occur at the star positions, right? But not at the fixed bits, right? The number of fixed bits are denoted by the order of a particular schema, we know, right? Because order of H is nothing but number of fixed bits in that particular schema H. Fine. Now, so what you want, there should not be any mutation in the fixed bit. So just to preserve that particular schema. So let PM be the probability of mutation. Let PM be the probability of mutation, which is nothing but the probability of destruction, right? It's nothing but destruction. Why? Because if it is muted, then it is destructed. It is not original because you are changing the bits itself. So the template will not be the original template, right? The originality of the template will be destroyed. So we say probability of mutation is nothing but probability of destruction. Fine. Now, probability of survival is what? 1 minus probability of destruction. So here you can say probability of survival is 1 minus PM, which is nothing but probability of mutation, or even you can call it as probability of destruction, right? So probability of survival considering all the fixed bits in a schema. So PS, okay, PS, right? So PS is nothing but 1 minus PM, which is probability of survival for the first fixed bit Remember, this is the probability of survival of fixed bit because we are talking about fixed bits in the schema. This we are working on a particular schema H, right? So what is the probability that the first bit of the schema will not be muted, right? That is the probability of survival of that first bit is 1 minus PM, right? And this is again the probability of survival of the second bit, right? And so on. We have similarly we have to go to the order of H here, right? So many fixed bits. How many fixed bits to the order H? So this becomes actually 1 minus PM raised to power order H, right? Now, as PM is very small compared to 1, so we can write it approximately as 1 minus order of H multiplied by probability of mutation. Fine. Now, if you combine all these three things together, right? Now, if you combine the selection, reproduction, reproduction, crossover, and mutation, right? This is what you get, right? Now, if you combine the effect of reproduction, crossover, mutation, we will be getting the rule for operating this particular schema, right? So the rule for operating is M multiplied by H comma T plus 1, right? Greater than equal to M multiplied by H comma T multiplied by FH divided by F bar multiplied by 1 minus probability of crossover multiplied by delta H divided by L minus 1 minus order of H multiplied by probability of mutation, right? So here we can say that it's greater than equal to sign. What is this greater than equal to sign? Is not only equal because during the G operation, there is also possibility a new GS string may also participate or may also follow schema H, right? A new string which is generated might follow schema H. So just to keep that particular possibility greater than or equal to sign, greater than or equal to sign is used, right? It might increase or it might remain same, right? So the conclusion of this particular expression is what? Now M into H comma T plus 1, right? Which is number of GS strings going to follow schema H at T plus 1 generation is greater than or equal to number of GS strings going to follow schema H T generation. This is a T plus, we are talking about the future. What is the possibility of these being selected in the next generation? Fine. It depends on the schema fitness, which is nothing but divided by the average fitness, that is selection. You can say this is the selection part. Then you have the probability of survival, which consists of crossover and mutation, right? This is the probability of crossover, right? 1 minus probability of crossover multiplied by delta H, right? That is defining length divided by the length of the population minus 1 minus order of H multiplied by probability of mutation. So this is mutation, this is crossover. All together we call it as probability of survival. This is the schema fitness, this is the average fitness. Fine. I hope the equation is clear. And why the sign greater than equal to? Because there are high chances of schema H surviving in the next generation also. Like there are many strings might follow schema H in the I plus T plus 1 iteration. Fine. Now, F of FH greater than F bar. What does it mean? Right? A schema whose average fitness is more than the average fitness of the population. You already seen this. We know what is FH, we know F bar, right? So the schema whose average fitness is more than the average fitness of the population, right? And if it is having a short defining length, now what is defining length is represented using delta H, right? So a schema has a short defining length. And what is defining length? The difference between the fixed bits starting and the last fixed bit. Fine. And it has a low order. Big of H, OH is low, that is, it has a low order. So if the schema is having all these properties, then we say the schema is a good schema, right? That is, it is having high chances of becoming a building block for the particular GA process, right? Fine. So if a schema has all this is nothing but this theorem, what it says, we'll be seeing that theorem The schema theorem says a schema whose average fitness is more than the average fitness of the population and whose defining length is short and which is of low order has more chances of surviving in the next generation, right? And ultimately it forms the building block of a GA process, right? So if you consider the schema fitness as more than average fitness, then the defining length, which is short, and the order of H is low, then what will happen is the probability of survival is going to be more. And moreover, if FH is found to be greater than F bar, right? So there's a possibility that we'll be getting a higher value for M multiplied by H comma T plus 1 compared to MHT, right? The chances of it surviving in the T plus 1th generation is more, right? This is just a simple example to prove schema theorem, how what it says: highly fit, short defining, and low order, right? So more fitness, short length, and low order, right? So from generation to generation and give exponential increase of samples to the observed test. So this is a simple example. You can see we have taken 5 chromosomes, or you can say 5 strings, the previous example what we had on our slides, right? And we have calculated the fitness. Fitness is what? We are counting the number of ones here. Now fitness of A, string A is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We write here 5. Fitness of string B is what? 3. 1, 2, 3. Fine. Fitness of string C is again 3. 1, 2, 3. So what you're doing, you're just counting number of ones. In case of X, it is 4. In case of Y, it is 4. Right? So this is the fitness. Now, depending on the times to be selected for reproduction is based on the proportional to the fitness. So more fitness, more chances of selection. So right, it is 5, so selection chances are 3. Here it is 3, so it is 1. Here it is 4, so it is 2. Right? Now, let us say this let us assume this as a building block. Like this is the schema which they are going to follow. So it can be seen that star 1 1 star star building block is present in all the strings, right? Just check it out. 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 and 1 1. So this schema represents a subset of chromosomes with the fitness not less than 3. And just see the fitness is not less than 3. Fine. Now, if we have a separate building block, let us say if I make it as 1 1 1, right? Now the schema star triple 1 star, where it is present, you can just say 1 2 3 3 ones together, right? At this position is here. It's only on string A, right? It's present only in string A, and it represents a subset of chromosomes with fitness not less than 5. Fitness of A is 5. Thus, every schema represents a subset of chromosomes with a particular average fitness, and selection more often chooses for reproduction. So chances of selection of this is more, right? Because fitness is more depending on the proportional selection, right? So this schema tends to stay and reproduce in the population from generation to generation. Now, irrelevant to defining length, chances to be destroyed. Okay. The schema star 1 1 triple star, right? Previous block, what we have talked, block is present in all the strings. We already saw that it has a defining length 0, y, 2, and 3. So 3 minus 2, right, is 0, is 1, right? It has a defining length 1. It should be actually, it is become 0, it is 1, and represents the chromosomes with the fitness greater than equal to 3. Right? The schema star 1 1 star is present in only first string. It has a defining length 4 and represents chromosomes, right, with the fitness greater than equal to 5. You know the fitness here. Although the schema we have star triple 1 star triple 1 has higher fitness, because what we are doing for fitness, we are counting number of ones, so it has fitness 6, right? It has higher fitness, but due to the long defining length is long, it has more chances to be destroyed by the crossover than the schema star 1 1 star, because defining length is very small with shorter defining length, right? So what we are trying to say, the schema should have short defining length. Fine. Now, irrelevant to the defined length, chances to be destroyed by mutation will be rather depend on the number of non-star symbols in the schema. That is nothing but the order of schema. We are talking about now order of schema, right? Although these chances are much smaller compared to the ones due to crossover, as the mutation probability PM is usually much smaller than the probability of crossover PC. Fine. Now, the schema star 1 star is present in all the strings. It has order 2 and represents chromosomes with the fitness greater than or equal to 3. The schema star 111 star star is present in first string. It has an order 5 and represents the chromosomes with the fitness greater than or equal to 5. Although the same schema 111 star has higher fitness due to the higher order, it might also have longer defining length and therefore more chances to be destroyed by crossover than the lower order schema star 11. Fine. Now, so what we're trying to say is chances to be destroyed by mutation are equal to, that is DM, which is nothing but order multiplied by chances of probability of mutation. Thus, chances to be destroyed by mutation will be higher for the higher order schema, though these chances are still much smaller than the ones due to crossover. Why? As the mutation probability is quite less as compared to probability of crossover. Fine. I hope the concept of schema theorem is clear. It's a very good concept if you go through it thoroughly and try to understand. The last 2-3 slides what I've given you just to prove how the schema theorem is right. Fine. Thank you. Stay home. Stay safe.